As dawn breaks over the horizon, landing craft stream toward the coast of Normandy. The smell of cordite and diesel hangs heavily over the English Channel, irritating the nostrils of men huddled together in small boats pitching and rolling in the heavy swell. In mere hours, they will participate in the largest amphibious invasion in history. For many, this is just another firefight, but for a select few, it will be the first time they have set foot in Europe since the evacuation at Dunkirk. Nervous soldiers clutch their weapons in anticipation as the world holds its breath. The Second Battle of France is about to begin. By May of 1944, Allied supremacy in the Mediterranean theater remained elusive. Hopes had been high after successful campaigns in North Africa and Sicily, but were dashed during the invasion of mainland Italy. Progress came to an abrupt halt at the heavily fortified Gustav Line, where Hitler's troops showed no signs of retreat. This lack of progress led Allied planners to open their second front after years of deliberation. The invasion of Normandy, codenamed Overlord, was finally commencing. The American First Army and the British Second Army, under the overall command of Dwight D. Eisenhower, were involved in the operation. Each army was assigned to one or more of the 5 Normandy landing sites: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Sword, and Juno. Over 140,000 men would participate in the initial attack. The Commonwealth forces landing at Gold, Juno, and Sword beaches were tasked with capturing the important rail and road hub of Cannes. Further west, American forces faced a struggle for Omaha and Utah beaches, aiming to isolate the Cotentin Peninsula, home to the vital port city of Cherbourg. Facing the landing armies were the formidable defenses of the Atlantic Wall, manned by roughly 50,000 German soldiers. Although a naval bombardment managed to breach a few German bunkers, many heavy guns remained intact, opening fire on the approaching landing craft. The men aboard could only grit their teeth as 88mm shells splashed around them. The Allies had equipped tanks with canvas skirts to be dropped in shallow waters ahead of the infantry, but 6-foot waves rendered these modifications useless. Transports dashed for the shore, dumping cargo directly onto the sand, with several sunk by enemy fire. Despite setbacks, British soldiers rushed entrenched German positions with small arms. Even as MG-42 machine guns shredded platoons, the Germans could not repel armored vehicles reaching the shore. It was one of these vehicles that silenced the deadly 88mm gun firing all morning. Between the 2 British sites was Juno Beach, where Canadians had a chance to prove their mettle. Shallow reefs and minefields made landing difficult, but the Canadian 3rd Infantry Division broke through and secured Juno by mid-afternoon, linking with British forces and pushing inland to fracture the German line. American forces faced greater challenges. From the moment landings began at 6:30, things went awry. Amphibious tanks could not handle heavy seas, with only 2 out of 29 reaching the beaches. Lacking heavy armament, infantrymen were slaughtered crossing the barren sand between the shore and enemy bunkers. Omaha Beach, the largest to be stormed on D-Day, saw soldiers often wading ashore in the wrong zones, forced to form ad hoc units and press towards enemy fire. Overlooking the American landing zones was La Pointe du Hoc, a 100-foot promontory housing German bunkers and massive 155mm guns. While men crawled through the sand, the 2nd and 5th Army Ranger Battalions assaulted the stronghold, reaching the cliffs at 7:10 a.m. And they scaled them amid fierce resistance. The Rangers systematically cleared bunkers, only to find the guns missing, removed days earlier. The 225-man assault left nearly half dead or wounded, casualties as much the fault of Allied intelligence as anything else. At 8:30 a.m., the first German counterattack struck Omaha, now the most contested of the landing zones. Several more followed throughout the day, with the most successful at 4 p.m. And when the 21st Panzer Division, the only armored unit within range, rocketed through the vulnerable corridor between Juno and Sword. This was the worst-case scenario. However, the counterattack was foiled by factors the Allies had anticipated before D-Day. In April 1944, Allied planes began bombing German positions in France. With the Luftwaffe occupied in the east, Allied aircraft outnumbered Axis counterparts. Aviators damaged coastal artillery emplacements and airfields, as well as rail and road networks used by the Wehrmacht. The campaign also served as misdirection. Operation Fortitude aimed to convince Germans the Allies would land in northeastern France. This involved false communications, news stories, and manipulation of double agents. A decoy army near Dover, led by General George Patton, further misled the Axis. Deception wasn't enough. Troops needed to be inserted behind enemy lines to disrupt the German response. The only way was via airdrops. Despite risk, British and American airborne divisions were scheduled to drop on the morning of the invasion. Facing heavy anti-aircraft fire, many paratroopers scattered across Normandy. However, enough landed in intended zones to prevent German reinforcements. British paratroopers captured 2 defended bridges, holding against repeated attacks. The 101st and 82nd Divisions also destroyed or captured bridges, delaying the German response. As D-Day ended, thousands of Allied soldiers lay dead with little to show. They had pushed miles inland, but only Gold and Juno beaches linked successfully. Omaha remained exposed. Optimistic planners had assumed towns would be under siege, but the reality was far from it. The counterattack by the 21st Panzer Division had been devastating, preventing forces from Sword and Juno linking up and thwarting the thrust toward Caen. However, Allied air superiority annihilated German armored columns, forcing them back. In the following weeks, British forces launched Operation Epsom, aiming to capture Caen, defended by 8 panzer divisions. The British were repulsed after achieving modest gains. Tensions rose at Allied headquarters. Meanwhile, German supply shortages grew, with the Eastern War taking priority. Many divisions in northern France were under strength, lacking heavy equipment. Attempts to mass panzers into a decisive force were foiled by bombardment and French resistance sabotage. Americans besieged Cherbourg, capturing it by June 29th, though the port was sabotaged and unusable until late August. In the east, Canadians captured the Carpiquet airfield on July 9th, but British efforts stalled at Caen. Despite slow progress, American fiefs pushed south, reaching Avranches by July 30th. With forces moving into Brittany, Germans defending Caen faced encirclement. The July plot to assassinate Hitler further destabilized German command, leading to a forced retreat. In early August, American forces led by the Third Army captured Brittany. German divisions attempted to cut through U.S. forces but faced ambushes by Allied anti-tank units. Seizing the opportunity to meet with Patton's forces, Montgomery's troops began a new offensive west of Caen. Within days, tables turned, and German forces found themselves victims of encirclement. Hitler finally approved a retreat as Allied forces converged. The only escape was through Falaise, held by a Polish armored division. Though the Polish fought valiantly, nearly 50,000 Germans were captured, abandoning heavy equipment. Normandy had fallen, and the road to Paris lay open. If you enjoyed this content, visit our channel for more stories like this. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. Also, let us know in the comments where you are watching from.